GM, GM. Today's daily lesson is going to be a little exercise, something I think is very useful and it will be informative and probably quite eye-opening for many of you. And what I want you to do is trade your emotions, right? So you'll hear me talk about the importance of keeping a journal and how you should write down your emotions. Now, sometimes that can be hard to do because when you're in the moment, you don't always think to write it down, right? So let me give an example. When Bitcoin dropped from 44 to 40 in that really fast move last week, obviously, if you were watching that or watching parts of it live, you were on the charts, you would have felt a mixture of confusion, a bit of panic, probably wanting to sell or sell your alts or short Bitcoin or close your positions, or maybe you even wanted to buy, but maybe you wanted to buy too soon. You wanted to buy at 43, 42, right? Buying on the way down. Maybe you even wanted to buy at the bottom because you're like, that's enough fear. There's plenty of, I feel fear, so I want to buy. Trying to counter trade your emotions, whatever. But if you don't action any of that, if you just think and feel all those things, when it comes to the end of the day, assuming you do your journal, which you should, it's easy to forget some of the feelings you had. So here's a little exercise. Put a few dollars in a sub account if you're using Bybit or Binance or BitGet or whatever. Create a sub account, put a few dollars in it. If you're using any other exchange account, just find a way to have a few dollars in a separate account for you to take some trades, right? Doesn't matter how much, doesn't matter about position sizing really, just keep it fixed, right? Just use a flat amount. Use $1, not $1 of risk, just $1, or the smallest amount you can buy, whatever you want to do, right? It doesn't matter. That part is not important. Just as long as you can open a trade, you can buy, you can sell, you can short, you can long. Obviously, if you're in America or whatever, you don't have to short. But ideally, you'll do this somewhere you can short. So if you're in America, maybe try using a decentralized exchange like Quenta or GMX or one of these ones. And only do this if you have, let's say, $20 to spare, right? If you've got $20 to spare, put it in a wallet. And this is mostly for people, if you're quite actively watching the market, I want you to trade every time you feel an impulsive emotion. And I want you to trade your initial gut feeling. So when you see it go down and you say, Bitcoin's weak, Bitcoin looks weak, I want you to sell. I want you to short. And then I want you to watch what happens. Short it with a stop loss and a 2-to-1 risk reward, let's call it, right? How you structure the actual trade is up to you. The main thing I want you to do is take a trade when you feel that emotion. And then after you've done this for a couple of weeks, I want you to review the profit and loss of that account. What you'll see is, visibly by the numbers, your account will lose. You will lose money if you sell when it looks weak. If you buy when it looks good, right? There's so many, every couple of days now we're pumping, right? But you'll notice all the false breakouts. I don't want you to second guess yourself. If you see price pumping and you think it looks good, I want you to buy and see how it works out, right? So if you're not in America, long and short. If you're in America, either just do long only and only buy when you feel like buying, or if you want to use a decentralized exchange, do long and short. Whether you do them all, it's not really important. The main thing is I want you to actually trade your emotions. Just for 2 weeks, just as a test. Because we learn a lot more by doing, and we learn very quickly when there's money on the line. This doesn't have to be a lot of money, but you'll be able to actually look at your account and see that it has gone down. Because if you do this for long enough, for 2 weeks, it will go down. Right? You can buy when it's pumping and you can be right. You could sell when it's dumping and you could be right. But over time, you'll consistently lose if you're selling in fear and buying in greed. And especially in these choppier markets where, Bitcoin spends a couple of weeks going between 40 and 45, there's every single day, it's either bullish or bearish or both. And it's really just part of the chopping process. And what you should see after 2 weeks is a lower balance. Maybe you put $20 into a sub account. Now you've got 13. Now you've got 7. Now you've got whatever. And I would hope that would hit home and help you realize that every single time you have a certain emotion and you want to trade based off an emotional reaction or an opinion, you are losing money. Even if it works sometimes, this 14-day trial will show you that over the long run, you will lose. So feel free to try that. I think it's a really good, simple exercise, extremely cheap as well, relative to doing it in real time with your real portfolio. Because you might not think you will. You might think, you've done my lessons, you've done white belt, you're in blue belt, you're wherever, and you've learned a lot about emotional control and psychology from me. But I don't want you to be in a position 6 months from now where you've got $5,000 and you FOMO into a long trade because it's breaking out. Because it's, your emotions are always good right up until they're not. Right up until they're not. So I'd really encourage you to think about that and to try that. And I think you'll get a lot of value out of it. And the part I want to add on, actually, I'll add this on at the end. When I said about when you enter, you're probably going to wonder, where do I put my stop loss? Where do I put my take profit? Don't worry about that. Just pick a fixed position size. Let's say you put $20 in. Just put $2 in every trade. And don't put any stop loss or any take profit. Because that's how a real emotional trade would be, right? A true emotional reaction, you wouldn't think about stop loss or take profit. You would just enter. You wouldn't even really think about position size. You would just enter. And so obviously the goal is not to liquidate yourself on the first try. So don't put $20 on. But maybe put 2, put 3, put 5, whatever. Don't think too much about it. Keep it as raw and real as possible. And then manually close it after a fixed amount of time. Let's say you leave it for an hour or whatever. The main thing is to take the emotional trade and then just observe what happens.